absolutely wonderful to see a crowd like this. We normally get 30 to 50 people at one of our meetings. I'm guessing we're around 90 or so here tonight, so thank you very much. Hope you have a good time with it tonight. First and foremost, I would like to thank Sharon and the Newport Syndicate for allowing us to have the space up here. I think this is appropriate for what we're going to be talking about. What we're going to do tonight is go through a short little business meeting that we do. We'll have our treasurer's report and our minutes and that kind of stuff and bring you up to speed on what we're doing. Then we'll turn it over to Mr. Schmidt to give us a presentation, okay? And I do have a few minutes, I promised Megan, for a promo on the Newport Syndicate for everybody, okay? Come on, Megan, you're on.
Yes. Sorry, you're showing him another way.
This is Megan, who is, what is your title here?
I'm actually Sharon's assistant. So
Okay, so she's an assistant director, we'll call her, for the syndicate. And I told her, not everybody knows what all they do in this facility, so Megan's gonna fill us all in.
So the syndicate, and this is actually our bar, Gangsters Dueling Piano Bar. As you can see, there's the dueling pianos. It's open every Friday and Saturday from 6 to 1 a.m. It's by request, so you come, you have fun. There's no cover charge. You can have dinner and appetizers from 6 to 11. Enjoy the music. So it's really fun. And then on the other side, on the syndicate side, we actually do any type of party you could ever think of. We've done weddings, fundraisers, anniversaries, divorce parties. So, I mean, we really do anything, and we have so many different rooms to choose from. You know, we have 5 different rooms. They can hold anywhere from 25 people to 500 people. So we have literally a space for everything. The reason why we're on this side today is because we have a big fundraiser actually on the other side that took up all of the upstairs. And then we have a prom in the downstairs tomorrow as well. So that's why we're in the bar. So, which the bar is fun. It is dark, you know, of course, when you first come in, but it's fun kind of being in here. So I actually, some things that I run myself on Saturday evenings at 7 p.m., I actually do a behind the scenes tour. So I show you the different secret passageways that are actually in the building. There's a lot of back hallways and back rooms that people don't know about in our building. When I actually first started working here, I got lost a lot. So it's just kind of fun. It's $10, and you also get a shot of George Remus bourbon with that. So that's, which you get that at the end, obviously, as well. So, and it is kind of a bit of walking, and there are steps. So I always like to tell people that as well. If you don't do well with steps, it might not be your thing to do on a Saturday. But that's always fun, and then you know, I do that after there's a walking gangster tour that is hosted by the American Legacy Tours, actually. So they come here, they start here, then they walk around Newport, talk about the history of Newport, and then they end up here, and then after that tour, then I would do the behind-the-scenes tour. So it's fun. There's a lot of different things I show. We have the original boilers still here and in that room. There's a big metal door that can close shut, which we don't ever do, but I'm sure back in the day there was a lot of gangster activity, so someone might have gotten stabbed. So I always like to show people that. And we have our original safe still in our office, so that's always really awesome to show. There's 5 forms of tear gas in that safe still. We can't get it out. It's just in there, and it's just kind of cool to tell people that. So there's different layers in that, and you also hear about that on the gangster tour as well. He talks a little bit about that. So there's a lot of history in the building. We always just try to get people in here, so it's really nice. We're happy to have you. Yeah, so we have a website, Gangsters Dueling Piano Bar, if you're interested in any of this stuff. And then the Newport Syndicate also has a website that you can go to and find out more about what we do on the banquet side. So, yeah.
Very good.
Thanks.
Thank you much. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to start with our minutes then.
So the January meeting was held at the Highland Country Club. Dan Schlarmer was the speaker for the evening and gave us a presentation on the history of Highland Country Club. Under reports, treasurer's report, we had a balance on hand of $8,499.39. Current membership stood at 220. Jan Lester reported that the May issue of the newsletter will be out at the end of April. This edition will have the articles of one or two of the 2019 essay contest winners. Under Veterans Records, Pam Casebolt reported that work is underway to develop a Korean War exhibit in the Society's Veteran Research Room. Gifts and donations. We got a store sign from Country Cousins Bakery, 1887 map of Newport, Lions Club items, jeweler supplies, 82 Fort Thomas Women's Club yearbooks and other paper booklets, 8 copies of the Newport High School alumni newsletter, and Bellevue High School yearbooks 1963 through 1967. Society publications, a day in Campbell County book project. The kickoff meeting for the event was to take place at Wilder City Building on March 30. April 27th is the day for taking pictures. Notifications for the events have been sent to high schools, photographers, photo clubs, and NKU. Our Camp Springs book, postcards were mailed. Postcards were printed and will be mailed to approximately 1,000 homes in the Camp Springs area to advertise the Camp Springs publication. And that's about it.
Very good. Thank you, Dan. Glenn?
We opened the month with $84.99.39, renewed 12 regular members, got an $8 cash donation, did $134 in Camp Springs books and DVDs, received our quarterly Kroger's reward for $136.92. So if you haven't designated your Kroger's reward, please think about us if you do. It's growing, and it's free money, and we love it. We sold 11 copies for $1.10 and collected 36 cents in interest for a net income of $424.38. We had expenses for the mailing, and we did some repairs in the office, bought some supplies for the veterans room, and stamps, the postcards. We bought a PA system for when we go on the road and we need a microphone. And we purchased the cabinet for the veterans room from a vendor in Milford. So we spent $1,136.38, ending balance $7,787.39.
Very good. Thanks, Glenn. Richard, do you have anything new on History Day?
Well, History Day this year came and gone already. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I think the library is a good facility. Any suggestions for improvements, let me know at a meeting, email me, email us, Historical Society. But I thought it went well. I haven't got any final numbers, but you know, we're looking forward to 2020 now. Looking forward with 2020 vision. Donations. Yeah, Frank and Joanne Warren at the February meeting had showed us a couple large panels that a teacher in Bellevue had made. We received those. Bev Harbor donated us a small August 1927 calendar from a small company in Newport, and also a 1929 booklet about a young people's conference in Newport. Dan Schlarman gave us a book, A History of the Highlands Country Club, and then tonight Mike Stahl brought in a Newport High School yearbook. It looks like 2007, and a graduation program from 1940. So that's our donations.
Okay, very good. Thank you. By the way, Nick Cleves he was second generation of Cleves Jewelers down in Bellevue, has donated a number of things actually over the last couple of months. And I just heard the other day that Nick's not in very good health. So if everybody can kind of keep him in their mind and wish the best for him. Jan, you want to run through your stuff? Newsletter, membership, correspondence, so on and so forth.
Okay. Currently, membership stands at about 240. I think there might be a lot of people here tonight who aren't members. Membership in our organization is only $12 a year. You get our newsletter published 3 times a year, and you get invited to all our meetings. You can get an email or a phone reminder of our meetings. So, and lots of other discounted rates on our books, on all our publications. So if you're interested in joining, you can see me or our treasurer Glenn, and we can get you set up. Okay, the newsletter, as Dan said, will be out at the end of this month. It'll be the May issue. It will have 2 of the essay contest winners in it, and 2 more honorable mentions will be in the next issue. This is a contest we run for middle and or high school students, and we've been doing so for several years. It's called the Frank Steely Memorial Essay Contest. And we do have some winners. I think I'll probably announce that too.
Okay.
In a minute. Okay, and lots of other good articles in the newsletter this time. A lot of our board members have contributed greatly to the newsletter. Okay, lots of things going on in the area. We get notices about lots of stuff, so I try to pass it on. The Ohio Genealogical Society Conference this year is going to be not too far away in Mason at the Great Wolf Lodge on May 1st through the 4th. Their conference is always a good genealogy conference. You can go to ogsconference.org and find out more about it. You can come up and copy that later. I'll have all this information available at the end if you need anything. The Sons of the American Revolution in Louisville, I think they're in Louisville. Yes, Main Street in Louisville is having a genealogy night. If you've tried to get into any lineage societies and are stuck, they will help you. They're going to have a few mini presentations, and then they're going to have one-on-one help if you need research. And that is on April 16th. That's next Tuesday night. It's free, and they just want you to register, so you can see the information up here if you want to go down. This Saturday, on the 13th, there's a presentation by the Ohio chapter of Palatines to America, German genealogy. A lot of us Northern Kentucky, Covington, Cincinnati people have German backgrounds. They're going to talk about the land they lived on in 4 different sessions. It's at the Der Dutchman restaurant in Plain City, Ohio. We are underway with a photography project that will become a book one day in Campbell County. Amateur and professional photographers are invited to participate. On April 27th is when we want you to take your pictures. Submit them to us by May 5th?
May 5th.
May 5th. Steve will probably talk about that a little bit. The Campbell County Library has a Food for Thought series, and I think you get some food from City Barbecue if you go. The next one is, well, there's one in April 16th, A Journey to West Africa, and on May 14th, Let Freedom Ring is about the Underground Railroad. So that should be a very interesting presentation from the Campbell County Library, and the meetings are there at the Cold Spring branch of the Campbell County Library at 6:30. Kentucky Historical Society has a lot going on. They have a genealogy, history writers. If you're interested in writing about your family history, they're having a share-in on April 27th. Limited seating, pre-register, but it is free, and it's in Frankfort at the Kentucky Historical Society. They also have a First Friday speaker series. And the next one, on May 3rd, Bourbon Archaeology. There you go. They've been doing archaeological digs at sites of old breweries or distilleries.
Yeah, those things.
Yeah. And they've been finding lots of really interesting information. So the information's up here. You can come check it out. Free family history library classes from the Latter-day Saints at Family Search. I'll just put those up here. I bring those every month. You can take online classes to teach you more about genealogy and how to research your families. So that's here. Bellevue is going to be celebrating their 150th anniversary next year. It's going to be a series of events, but there are no dates yet. They have a committee, and we may be setting up at one or more of these events with our display. But if you're interested, if you're from Bellevue or have lived there or want to get involved, you can contact the mayor, who is Charlie Cleves, speaking of the Cleves family.
Nick's son.
Yes, Nick's son. And be looking for more information about that because there's nothing definite yet. But at the end of it, they're going to have a big gala. So then there's a seminar on rehabbing historic wood windows. If you own an old home and you have old wood windows, a government grant enabled this to happen. That's in Bellevue also. You can email Jody Robinson, jody.robinson@bellevuekentucky.org. On April 13th, that's this weekend also, from 9 to 3:30. And it doesn't say exactly where it's going to be, but you can get information if you contact her. And finally, hot off the presses is a new book, but probably nobody here will want to buy it. It's called Joseph and Phoebe DeWeese. It's a book written, a genealogy book, a family history book. This is what one man did, and I helped, to document his family history. We have lots of books like this and binders and information in our research library about families from Campbell County. Now, the DeWeese family came to Grayson County, Kentucky. So unless you know somebody or related down there, you probably don't tie in, but come to our library and check out your family. We might have some surprises for you. That's
Lots of
all of
stuff.
that.
Very good. Thanks,
What do
Jan.
you want the winners? Do we want to do the winners now? Charlene gave me the sheet.
Okay, do it. She
Okay,
gave you thumbs up.
yes. Our essay contest winners this year. First place is Cecilia Fearman. She wrote about real life Rosie. She had a grandmother who was a real life Rosie.
Rosie the Riveter?
Rosie the Riveter, yes,
Okay.
Rosie the Riveter.
Good.
Second place by Joey Stubbs, wrote about Ingram's Spare Time Restaurant out in Alexandria. Number three, honorable mention. We had a first and a second place winner. Then the honorable mention is How Katie Stein Impacted Campbell County by Luke Schmader. And then we had one more honorable mention by called, I'm in the wrong place, Campbell County Public Library by Evan Callahan. That was also an honorable mention. And then we had those were all middle school students, and they wrote great essays. We had one high school that we gave an honorable mention to, Madison Peters, The Great Tragedy of Beverly Hills.
Okay.
And we might hear something about that tonight.
I don't know. Very good, thanks. Pam, you want to bring everybody up to speed on the Veterans Room? A few things have happened.
Yeah, it's been exciting. First of all, we now have 13,624 veteran records, and many of them have original pictures of our veterans during the time they served. We also have 26 Veteran of Valor CDs where Charlene has interviewed these individuals and they've told of their war experiences. So we have 26 of those. We're really excited that we now have some Korean War items. Thanks to Dan, he was able to secure the Harry Ledman collection. A gentleman wanted to send his father's naval collection to us, and it arrived, and it's just great. And to Ed Whitehead, who gave us some Korean money, some Japanese money, and a few other documents. So we had to go buy a case. We had to go buy a display case so that we could put these items in. And we were very fortunate. We found a beautiful one at that shop in Milford. And with the help of Ken and Dan and Glenn and everybody who hauled it up the stairs.
All six of us.
Yeah, we now have it in place, and we're putting our items in it. Which reminds me, if any of you have items that you're willing to donate, or maybe if you have an interesting item that we could scan, we would love to have that. And not just Korea, but we'd love to have something from Vietnam, from the War on Terror, from any of the wars that followed, so that we can add it to our collection.
Or Civil War, or Spanish American, if anybody has
Yeah,
any of
everybody
those.
got anything
Yeah.
back then, yeah. So anyway, we would appreciate having anything that you have to add to our collection.
Very good.
Thank you.
All righty, thanks. Ken, you want to bring everybody up to speed on your, you've been busy.
Those who don't know me, I'm Ken Reese. I'm retired president of the society. I'm trying to reinvent myself, so I've been doing talks and tours. We hosted a group of 20 librarians from Campbell County Public Library last week with 3 other board members. We gave them a tour, showed them all we had. They were all very surprised at the amount of stuff we have in our library. I have a talk coming up, Christ Church of Fort Thomas, on the history of the 4th Street schools. Right down the block here, there was actually 5 different schools in that one little block since 1798. I have a group coming in to see my log cabin museum also in April. I've got 2 more groups tentatively scheduled for mid-July. If you have any interest at all in a tour of our Historical Society Library or my log cabin museum in Grand Slick, I'd be glad to schedule a tour with you and give you 1 person or 20. So give me a call and I'll be glad to set it up for you.
Very good. Thanks, Ken. All right, just an update on a couple of things. Dan talked about the postcard that we sent out on our Camp Springs book, and I think Sharon will tell you the first night or the first day we were open after that hit, all she did was sell books that day. That thing's it's selling like crazy. It's working well. So anybody that's looking for Camp Springs books, we have them. Jan talked about One Day in Campbell County. This is a new project that we're doing this year. It's an interesting project. We're asking anybody. I took somebody from Springboro today signed up to do this. We're picking one day, April 27th, and asking people to go out and take pictures of every square inch of Campbell County. Okay, we want to get all the schools, the government facilities, the libraries, the churches, the farms, the urban areas, everything you can imagine in Campbell County, and we're going to put it all in a book. And I think this is going to be a book that everybody's going to enjoy now, but I won't be around to see it, but I just imagine the thrill 100 years from now when somebody finds this book, and you ever look at pictures from the early 1900s and you say, oh wow, look at the cars, look at the dresses, look at the hairdos. They're going to do the same thing 100 years from now looking at us. So we're making a snapshot of Campbell County for those folks 100 years from now. And I think this is going to be a phenomenal book. I looked right before I left the house today. We have 57 photographers signed up so far. They range from, I have little Girl Scouts signed up to take pictures, and we have professionals signed up to take pictures. So it runs the gamut. Anybody can sign up. All you have to do is go to our website. It's a piece of cake. So I'm looking forward to that. Photo day is 2 weeks from Saturday, April 27th. All right, it's time for you guys to make a decision. We couldn't make a decision at the board. I'm scheduling the next 6 months worth of meetings between now and the end of the year. I have everything booked. I have another one set to go, but we have one small problem. For the month of July, I've talked to Lori Risch, and we can go to Behringer Crawford Museum and get a personal tour of Behringer Crawford. The problem is, our meetings are on Thursday nights, and that's the same night they have the concerts in the park up there. There's no place for us to park. Does anybody have a problem with moving our meeting night one day earlier to Wednesdays? Can everybody do that? Just for that 1 month, just for that 1 month. Can everybody do that, okay? No problems? Okay, I'll get in touch with Lori and we'll schedule that. One other update, and that is, I think everybody knows Silver Grove schools are closing and they're merging with Campbell County. We talked to the superintendent down there and we had an invitation to go down. I don't know how many pictures Dan took. I took about 160 pictures of the school that we will now have for our file. Again, for future use, somebody's going to want to see where their grandmother went to school or their great-grandmother went to school, and we're going to have it for them. That was a pretty exciting, and I didn't even go to school there, and it was kind of an emotional thing to look at it, to see how different it was, and to understand that'll never be a school again. It just won't be. So, anyway, those pictures will be in our library probably in the next month or so. That's all I've got for right now. So everybody came here to listen to Glenn Schmidt talk. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Glenn and let him talk about his grandfather, Pete Schmidt, and all of the surrounding stories of Pete.
Yeah, I told Steve he'd have to hold my hand because technically I'm not a polished speaker. I'm a bowling proprietor. I'm still in business. For those of you that don't know, I'm a little advertisement here. I have LaRue Lanes out in Highland Heights. I've been there 31 years. I spent a lot of years right here, right over there, and right behind the lanes. I spent a lot of time in this building here, and it's a fantastic building. I remember the day that it was being built. I spent time with my grandfather coming down to watch the progress of it being built. I want to thank you for having me here tonight, and I've got me some notes that I've got to go by, so I keep everything in order. I want to tell you a little bit about myself and my family. My name is Glenn Peter Schmidt. I was named Glenn after my father, and I was named Peter after my grandfather, and of course I had the last name of Schmidt. I won't tell you my age because, well, we know about ages, but the fact is that I was born in August of 1941, so everybody can get your calculator down and do the math. And that'll tell you where I stand insofar as age is concerned. I graduated from Highlands High School in 1959. I went to the University of Kentucky, graduated there in 1964. Then I went into the Army for 6 months on active duty, and then I spent 5.5 years in a reserve unit. Fortunately, I was able to get it set up that way so that I could get back here to operate this place. Get to my father, who was known as one of the youngest managers, nightclub managers, when he was up at Beverly Hills. I never really did get to know my father. He was working most of the time, and of course when he wasn't working, then he was at home sleeping while I was in school. And by the time I got home from school, he was up and back to work again. So I was basically raised by my mother. I had 2 sisters, one older sister, 2 years older than I, and her name is Beverly Judy, so you can imagine where she got the name Beverly from. And my younger sister's name was Betty Margaret, and she was named after my mother. My dad, he had gotten sick in 1952, 2 years after this place was built, and my grandfather did everything he could possibly do to try to, the doctors, the hospitals, he took him up to the Mayo Clinic. I believe that was up in New York, and there was nothing really that they could do. And he died in 1952, and my father was 35 years of age when he passed away. This now brings me to my grandfather, and whose name was Peter Schmidt. And he married a lady named Agnes. They lived 3 houses down the street from us in Fort Thomas on Oak Ridge, at 54 Oak Ridge, and of course the biggest house on the street, which overlooked Lincoln Airport, the river, and also overlooked Charlie Lester's house, which was where Lester Lane was in Fort Thomas. My grandfather was a good-sized man, and he smoked about 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And I'm sure he couldn't have existed through this day and age, because everybody now is going non-smoking, and not a bad idea. But he smoked Camels and Chesterfields. Now, I'm sure that brings back memories for some of you people of cigarettes as far as that goes. One thing about him, when his wife was with him, and we were going mostly, and I was with him in the car, he would not smoke. That was one of the rules that my grandmother Agnes, her name was Agnes, that she had set up, that no smoking while she was in the car or I was in the car. And he obeyed all her rules. He was a very kind and respectful man, you know, especially to his family. And, you know, a lot of things that you may have read about him, it doesn't speak about the kind and the respect that he really had. And he really treated me very, very nice, and he also treated he had 2 sisters and he had a brother. Dee Dee Owens was one of his sister, my Aunt Annie Kissel, and her husband was a barber, Andy Kissel. Some of you maybe remember him up on Mama Street as a barber. And then he had a brother named Robert Schmidt. And Robert worked with my grandfather to a certain degree. I never knew Robert all that well, but he was involved with him. When we came down here for dinner, which we did on the weekends, my grandfather did carry a gun. There was no doubt about that. Back in those days, that was probably a necessary thing as far as he was concerned, because of, you know, there was people that wanted what he had, and he was not carrying the gun to go out and hurt somebody. That's not the reason he carried a gun. He carried it to protect himself and his family. And he would always, well, let me say that at the age of 14, he had me driving his Cadillac because his health wasn't all that great, his eyes weren't all that good, at that point, and he would have his gun in his hand, and we'd go out to get in the car, and he would take his gun and he would bounce it on the front seat of the car, and I'm sitting behind in the driver's seat. 2 bounces, and the barrel was right here. And Agnes would say, my grandmother would say, Pete, I don't think you ought to do that. That's not a good idea. So that may go off sometime, he said. Everything will be okay. You know, so that was probably the last time he did that. But he was a very respectful person. I mean, when he came down here, he enjoyed talking with the customers down here. He enjoyed being out in the bowling area and watching the bowlers bowl, that type of thing. So he was quite a businessman. That's why he built the places the way he did. He built Beverly Hills as a showplace with a fine restaurant, and that's what people back in those days, especially the people that came in for the convention business into Cincinnati. That's what that business is what he depended on, was to get that convention business over here, because he knew that's where the money was. These guys were on expense accounts. They represented companies. And so he built these plush places, and not to say that they only went there for dinner, because we know there was gambling back in those days. And of course, these people were looking for entertainment, and that's the type of entertainment they wanted. But again, those were the kind of people that he was glad to have, because he knew that they couldn't get hurt. I knew on several occasions where I'd be sitting out in the bowling lane with my grandfather, and a lady would come in and she'd want to talk to Pete Schmidt. And they would direct her over to where he was sitting, and she said, Mr. Schmidt, she said, my husband was in your place, and I got 2 children, and he got to gambling and couldn't stop and lost all his money, and we don't have any money to pay our rent. And he looked up at her and said, well, to begin with, I'm sorry he got into the gambling area. And he said, you know, it's not our intentions for that to happen. He didn't want to see that happen. And he asked her how much she lost, and I don't remember the amount, could have been $100 or so of income, and he would pull out $100 and give it to her. And he would say to her, tell him, don't come back in this place again. We don't want that to happen here. You know, he should stay home with his kids, and that's all he would say to her. But he would give her the money back. Let's see what I got on the other side. I'm sure that some of you know about the holdup that happened in this place. It was in 1952. This was before my father had passed away. This happened early in the morning. A gang out of Cleveland came in, and there was about 5 or 6 of them. And they knew exactly where they were going. They went back to the gambling room. They had everybody laying on the floor. It was the Cleveland syndicate that came in, and it was the Trubiano brothers that were here to hold the place up. And of course, this was another attempt to deter my grandfather from doing business, because my grandfather was an individual who didn't want partners. He didn't want to be a syndicate. He wanted to be an individual in the places that he ran, the Beverly Hills, the Glen Rendezvous, and Glen Schmidts. So under the circumstances that they had everybody on the floor, one of them went over and they knew exactly who my father was, and they made him stand up and they pointed a gun to his head and told him to take him to the safe. And my grandfather couldn't handle that. He stood up and he told the guy, if you hurt that boy, he said, you'll pay dearly for that. And the guy told him to shut up and lay down. But he told him, my grandfather didn't care if he would have shot him at the time, but he didn't want him, that's how close he was to my dad. So, in the meantime, Bobby Schmidt, who was a half-brother or a step-brother to my father, knew where there was a gun. It was behind the control counter out in the bowling lane. And Bobby was over here, back in this area here, took off running, got up and ran over there, got the gun out, and as one of the guys chasing him came through the door right back here, Bobby shot him. And then Bobby got up and ran outside, and as he was running out from behind the desk to the outside, he got shot in the leg, some part of the leg, and he limped out there. Well, by that time, here come the sirens and the police. They had got notice of what was going on, and they gathered their people up. But before they did, this guy was dying that Bobby had shot, and he lifted him up right by the bar, which is right out in that area over there, and lifted him up, and the bartender at the time was Bill Huseman. I remember it well. I remember him well. I don't remember the incident because I was home. But I remember Bill Huseman very well that worked here. And they asked the guy that was dying, is this the guy that shot you? They thought it was the bartender that may have shot him. And he said no. And therefore they let Bill go. They didn't do anything to Bill. They got out, they put this guy in the car, and they took off at that point. They didn't get anything. But that was basically the holdup that happened here. And of course, for 3 days after that, me and my two sisters didn't get to go to school because they were afraid that there would be a possibility that we might be kidnapped. So we had to stay home for 3 days, and even though we didn't really quite understand the whole situation, we were kind of happy that we didn't have to go to school for 3 days. You know, again, like I said, my grandfather was, you know, he was such a good person as I saw him. And we had a room, my younger sister and I had a room up in their house in the upstairs. And just to show you the type of person that he was, when he would come home, it would be like 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. And he would come up and come in our room. Now, this tough man that everybody heard about and knows would get down on his knees and pray by our bed for us. And that's the type of person that he was. And we would hear him because we heard him come in the room, but we wouldn't let him know that we heard him. And but he would get on his knees by my bed, and then he would go over to my sister, Betty Margaret. I call her Susie now. She works for me at the bowling lane, but that is her name, Susie. Right, Mary? Did I see Mary? There's Mary. Mary knows her well, and that's the type of person that he actually was. And you know, it's hard to convince people that he was that mild-mannered. I have, you know, I didn't know a whole lot about Beverly Hills. I did go to Beverly Hills at one time after it was sold, and that was because when my prom came up, that's what kids did. They went to the Beverly Hills, you know. And I graduating in '64. That's when I had the prom, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the fire was in '65. Is that correct? Did some of you know the date of the fire of the Beverly Hills? I don't remember. 75? Well, anyway, regardless, Beverly Hills was still there in '64, and that's when I went up there. And for one of the few times that I was in there, because as a young kid, I didn't get taken up there because of all the activity that went on up there with the shows and the people that were performing up there at the Beverly Hills. But it was quite a place to go. And I do remember my dad traveling to New York, and he met with a gentleman by the name of Miles Ingalls. All these names come back to you. And Miles was a booking agent in New York, and that's where my Dad got all the shows that came into the Beverly Hills down there, so. I'm gonna throw some names out to you. I'm sure that some of you will remember these names, play a little name game here, of people that came in this place, people that I met, people that I got to meet that I knew. Some of them I only met them one time. Bob Siddell, remember Bob Siddell?
Yeah.
Yes. Mayor, absolutely. And Bob was also a trustee of this place because this place was put into a trust after my grandfather passed away. Yes, sir.
He was president of the musicians union.
That is correct. That is
And he used to
correct.
stand outside of it on Schmidt on the street. Played the accordion.
Another name is Charlie Lester. Charlie Lester, an attorney, right down the street here, his office was. And he was in with a gentleman by the name of Lawrence Friedinger, who was in with Charlie Lester. And of course, Charlie had his son in there too, was Bruce. Well, here's one that I know you all remember because he didn't be gone too long, Johnny Peluso. Yeah. Johnny, big-hearted guy, Johnny was. I mean, he'd give you the shirt off his back. I mean, how about shoe giveaway day when Johnny would go out and buy shoes? And people would be lined up out there to get a pair of shoes because Johnny had gone out and got all these shoes. Johnny was his own worst enemy, though. We all know that because he just couldn't, he had to keep going with the bingo and that type of thing, and that's what got him, you know, because he wouldn't quit. But he was a great guy. I dearly loved Johnny Peluso. Feisty, but he was a good guy. Ralph Bussman. Yeah, he was the city manager of Newport. And of course, he was a good friend of my grandfather. And George Google, police chief, right? He had the end seat in the bar, right where that lady's sitting. He's sitting in George Google's seat. And that's where you would always find him when he came in here, with that end seat, having a few adult beverages. I know that you didn't know Stan Shoemaker. Some of you may have heard the name. Stan, he was always in the gambling business. He was like the book horses. He was a bookie. He worked for my grandfather. Stan was a big-hearted guy. But Stan's problem was he just loved to eat. And of course, he would eat here all the time. And worse than some of the food that he ate, he just couldn't give up his desserts. And he just kept getting bigger and bigger, and he finally exploded one day. But he was a good friend of Jim Gallucci. I don't know if you know of Jim Gallucci or not. Jim was a captain on the Newport Police Force. Now here is a captain on the Newport Police Force out with Stan Shoemaker, who was booking horses. You know? But they were friends. They met each other. They knew each other. And more than that was their wives. Their wives were very close to each other. And they loved to play bingo, their wives did. And they would start here, they would go over to the Merchants Club, and then they would go somewhere up there on Mama Street. Three different places in one night to play bingo. But they were good friends. Pat Saffordine, what a gentleman he was. Good friend of my grandfather's. Whenever my grandfather had to attend a funeral, or my grandfather had to go to court, and this was after my grandmother had passed away, Pat would go and stay at his house while he was gone so that nobody would break into his house. They were afraid because they knew that he was going to be gone, my grandfather would be out of the house, or that nobody would be there. But Pat was that type of person, that he would just stay at my grandfather's house under those circumstances. And then there was one I know that you'll remember was Frank Screw Andrews. He had the Sportsman's Club in the numbers rackets down there on 3rd Street, I believe it was. How about Red Masterson? Red Masterson, just a block away, over at the Merchants Club over there. And of course, gambling over there as well as bingo, some dinner, cocktails, that type of thing. Jim Murphy, Judge Jim Murphy. He was a good guy, Jim was, and I had some dealings with Jim Murphy myself. There were some guys that came in here and tried to beat up on me one day. And Jim saw to it that they never got back in Newport again. And one gentleman that I know, and I didn't know too much about this gentleman, but his name was Henry Banky. Now, probably nobody recognizes that name, but he was a dice maker. He lived up in South Newport, and he made the best dice in the United States because places throughout the United States always contacted him, and they wanted Henry to make their dice. And I've got some dice here that I'm going to show you. It's in my little packet here. I've got some dice in there. I've got some in a pack, that type of thing. And I'm almost sure that those dice were made by Henry Banky. But that's where we got all of our dice. One other name of a gentleman that I didn't get on my list, and it just happened to hit me while I was here, was Morris Weintraub. Morris was always involved with the people in Newport, with my grandfather as an attorney, a fine attorney, also involved with the state in politics, that type of thing. But let me assure you that there was a lot of good people in Newport. And back in those days, it seems like you didn't really have to worry so much about walking on the street like you might possibly have to do today, not so much in Newport, but over in Cincinnati, that type of thing. Because there was a lot of protection in this city back in those days. And you didn't have to really worry about somebody coming up and trying to rob you or hit you over the head with something, that type of thing. But that's pretty much what I have here. I'd like to answer some questions if anybody has any questions. I do have these materials. If you want to look at them, I have a limited time. I can't stay all night. I have a couple of puppies at home that are waiting for my wife and I to get home. But this was, you said this was a thesis. I didn't know that.
I think this one was a thesis.
And this takes you right through, all the way through from...
Yeah, this is one that follows through the whole period of time in what they call Sin City. And it starts fairly early on. And I think this was a student's thesis, and I want to say from EKU, but I could be wrong about that.
That's where it came from.
It what?
Easter.
Eastern? Okay.
A lot of articles that I have in here starts out with Glenn Schmidt's Plaetorian. It was called a Plaetorian back in its day. Shows a lot of the different chips. And then, of course, we had the articles in here. Most of the articles were about the holdup, gunman slaying as Schmidt's route, gang-style bandits, that type of thing. That was our dear Cleveland syndicate that came in. And, of course, there's other articles in here, too.
I saw this stuff yesterday, and I was absolutely amazed because someone took the time to cut out newspaper articles just like every day. They cut them out and put them into a scrapbook, and it just tells the story of what happened, both at Beverly Hills in one of these and here. It's just incredible. I mean, there's even little classified ads of who's performing that weekend, and it's really cool.
Yeah, there was a picture of my grandfather and my father, and I didn't bring up the other name that is, the picture of the man there is Leroy Fredericks. And then we had some of the old cars that sit out front there, that type of thing on some of the pictures. So this was Glenn Schmidt's. But if some of you want to come up and look through this, I'll be here for a little while afterwards. And then if you don't get to look at it and you want to take more time to look at it, you're welcome to come out LaRue, and I'll set you up at a table out there. You'll be more than happy. I'll keep the stuff out there at the bowling center that's out in Highland Heights. I also have a picture here of the bowling lane back in the day when it was first getting ready to open. It was above surface return at that time when it was built back in 1952. The ball came up above the surface, that type of thing, and then to a rack, and then had the great big telescores back in those days. This is unbelievable where bowling has gone since that time. I mean, that's a whole nother story I could tell you. But it's phenomenal. And then, of course, in years past after that, I remodeled this place, and we went to underground. I had to raise everything up out here, and then I dug down a little bit. I couldn't go down too far because of the basement that's underneath with the passageways down there. And I can tell you about those too. They're not passageways, they were storage rooms. Believe me, yeah. I mean, they had to have a, she's sitting out there, I wanted to. Oh! But no, I don't want to, no, they were, there is a way to get down there and over to the kitchen, that type of thing. And it is kind of like a passageway, no doubt about it. And, I don't know how many people might have escaped, but they did. And of course, this was the downstairs. See the difference? And that's the downstairs as it looked back then. And of course, it sure has changed. It's beautiful. I was there for a wedding reception a couple of weeks ago, and they did a tremendous job here on the wedding reception for my sister's twin granddaughters. One of them got married, and it was a beautiful affair down there. Very nice, very well done. And this was a picture of my father admiring the new stoves that they bought for the kitchen back there. Just some stuff that we had at home. These are the dice that I talked about. These were dice that were, I'm sure, were made by Henry Banker. And of course,
This is a pretty incredible collection because everybody has seen dice,
Yeah.
okay? But these are dice that have never been opened before. They're still wrapped.
Wow.
And I've never seen those in anybody's collection anywhere where they're still wrapped.
I've got 3 of those up
Yeah.
there in there. And a few chips. Chips that got the GS on them, the bowling lane Schmidts on them. This was a $5 chip. So again, like I said, you're welcome to come up and look at anything that I have here. Is there any questions that I can? Okay.
I believe your grandfather and my great-grandmother were brother and sister. And Anna was married to Joe Wasser. And their son was Henry, they had several sons. But their son was our grandpa. Yeah, Henry Wasser. Pop, they called him Pop Wasser.
Was it Wasser?
Wasser, W-A-S-S-E-R.
You know, that name is very, very familiar. I've heard that name mentioned through the years.
Yes, I think
that
the
type of
Wassers
thing.
and Schmidts
But I-
intermarried several, back and forth.
I can't really tell you exactly so much about that.
My
but,
sister's doing more research than I do, I just have a big mouth. It's actually your great-great-grandmother was Margaret Wasser, and her husband was Peter J. Schmidt, so that would have been your great-grandfather.
Mhm.
There you go. You got cousins.
Yes.
What year was this building built?
This building was built it started being built in 1949. It was around August or September that they started building the building at that time, and it was opened in about March or April of 1950.
Was the building as large as it is now?
The building was 16 lanes at that time. The building was large.
What
This
was
way,
the
this way.
layout in here?
And here was the lounge. This was the lounge. You're sitting in the restaurant. This was part of the restaurant here when I had it. Over there around the bar, we had some tables up against the wall here. And then before I sold the place, we opened it up here. Is that right? I think I got it all right.
Well, that's the original bar.
That is the original bar, yes.
Okay.
And the horseshoe effect of it. Yes,
Was it named for you or for your father?
it was named for my father. But don't tell anybody that. Yes,
You're saying you were managing the place in the late 60s?
and the what?
The late 60s, you managed?
I came back, after I got out of the service, I came back to this place here.
Okay, the reason I said, I had my wedding reception in a room in back of the restaurant
Right.
in 1967.
And back in that area, right over here.
Yeah, there was a
the-
room
the-
behind the
The
restaurant.
kitchen was
so-
back there where you
Yeah.
got the exit sign there.
Yeah,
And then over to the right was party rooms.
yeah, there's a-
And
yeah.
they had folding accordion doors
Yeah,
that would
I've
go
got
back into
pictures,
the
you're
wall.
probably in one. You're probably in one, because whoever the manager was coming up and speak, I should have brought it.
That's when I was a-
Speaking to my parents at the reception, so they can.
That's when I was a good-looking young.
I would like to make a comment. You were so true about how safe Newport was. You walk around the syndicate and not want any problems because people coming from Cincinnati and also the conventions. But
Well, let me tell you, we had a guy that, we had a piano. Is this the same? Has this piano been here a long time? No. But we had a piano behind the bar. And it took up, first it was in the corner, and then we put it behind the bar. And we had a, Jack Maston, I think was his name, a piano player and singer, and he played the piano and sang, and he would come in and play behind the bar. He was blind. He lived over across the river. And back in those days, he would walk across the bridge, all the way up here to play music, and then when he got done, at 2:30 in the morning, he would walk back across the bridge. Never had a problem, and he was blind, you know? So, yes.
may I tell a story?
Yes, you may.
Pat, Sheffadini.
I'm sorry,
Pat Sheffadini.
oh, Pat Saffredini, yeah.
Well, we were just young guys. There used to be a place out on Alexandria, called Club Alexandria.
Bob Alexander?
We were up at, we didn't have a car, we were up at 10th in New York waiting for a bus. And I stopped and my three buddies, one was Ray Minch, I don't know if anybody knew him.
Ray Minch, the fireman?
Huh?
The fireman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so when he was younger, he played the accordion and all.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, we're standing there waiting for the bus, and a police cruiser pulls up, and Pat Sheffadini rolled down the window. He said, "Hey, Ray, where are you going?" He said, "We're going out to Club Alexandria." He said, "Well, hop in the car." So the four of us get in the back of a patrol car, and they take us out to Club Alexandria. That's the way
That's what they did.
It was great until they did away with the gambling. And the prostitutes and the B-girls, and that's when it all went down south. That's when it really became Sin City.
Yes,
I have a name for you,
you have a name for me.
Mary Wagner.
Mary Wagner. Yes, Mary Wagner,
Remember
old out
that
of LaRue.
story?
She-
Here,
Oh, yes, it was here, the DMIs, Daughters of Isabel.
that was me, one of them.
When Mary Wagner turned 100 years old, we had a big party for her out there, put a table down on the bowling lane on the approach and made presentations to her, that type of thing. I remember Mary
She
Wagner.
bowled when she was 100 years old in a league that I bowled in, and you bought us all engraved glasses and filled them with wine or champagne for us that night.
We did. How'd you feel after that?
Oh, we were finished bowling, so.
That's good, that's good. Yes, sir.
Hey, Butch,
Butch, wait a minute, hold on.
That's your name, but.
That was a nickname.
Okay.
When I was in high school,
Your grandpa built the new house at the end of Oak Ridge there.
yes.
1950 maybe? Anyway, you weren't with us tonight. We went to his house for Halloween. Or maybe you were, I don't know, but I don't think so. But do you remember what he was giving out in his house on Oak Ridge? We'd go there for Halloween, and he'd be sitting in that big chair with his little hat, and he did, we wasn't smoking. But do you remember the big tub of silver dollars he had?
Yeah.
There's one of them. That's absolutely right. I saved that thing for 50 years, whatever. But he had a big tub of silver dollars. He scooped down there and put it on. You know, we didn't have a whole lot of kids there on Oak Ridge going up and down.
You know, I went trick-or-treating myself at that young age, but of course when I went down there, you know, they would invite
We were probably going together. You don't remember where I am, do you?
Tom Haas. I'm sorry?
Tom Haas.
We spent a lot of time together. Especially up at your farm.
I know.
Tom, I didn't recognize you.
Okay, well, Tom.
But anyway, we would go up to Sleep Out Louie's.
Yeah.
And he'd be handing out money too.
He had Pete Schmidt's house was they were waiting in line to get in that place. That was great.
Yeah.
Somehow I've heard that.
Wow.
Yeah, well.
Yes,
Do you remember the name Andy Andrews?
I'm sorry.
Andy Andrews?
Andy Andrews, the maitre d' here?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
He's an uncle of one of my cousins.
Oh,
He
yeah,
was
I
here-
remember.
he
He
was
was here a long time.
Yeah, he was here
With,
for a long time.
John, what was John's last name? I forget. He was a maitre d' at night. Andy was pretty much during the day.
Yes.
And kind of hung over to the night as a maitre d'. Yes.
I was in the gambling room at the Beverly Hills. It was secret, and I was only 18 years old.
Really? Well, I'm gonna apologize. Did you lose any money?
The tape, I don't even know what you call it, the thing that turned upside down. And
Yeah, what do they call that? There's a dice in it?
yeah, it has a dice on it. I played it, but I didn't win anything.
How about that? Yes,
You were right about Newport changing. I graduated from Newport in '66. I wouldn't be afraid to walk the streets. But when I graduated from Eastern in 1970, walking the streets of Newport scared me sometimes. John Street, I'd be, whoa. It changed.
back in those days, I had no problem, at that point, walking the streets of Newport, but,
Mama Street, you go down at Halloween and hit every store, just walk down to Mama Street, right in the center, you have no problem. Not now.
I used to feel that way too, except one morning I used to work at the brewery. I was going to work. I remember Sandy Eisner laying on the corner. I don't know if you remember him or not.
yeah, was that when he got shot?
Yeah,
Yeah.
What year was that? Was that in the 70s?
early.
Okay, I worked at St. Luke's Hospital in the lab. Scared me walking into the morgue and seeing him laying there.
Yeah.
Different.
No, one thing that I didn't bring up while I was going through my notes here, I kind of got away from my notes, and I'm glad I did, because a lot of times I read them, and, I'm down, I got my nose in my notes, and I can do better if I don't, but anyway, my grandfather got concerned about the fact that we were, with the gambling being in the back room, and that's where the gambling was in those back rooms that we were talking about before, where they were party rooms later on. But we would get raided, and then here come the alcoholic beverage control, and the next thing you know, your license is in jeopardy. We got bowlers out there bowling that require drinks when they bowl. We had people coming in for dinner that wanted drinks with their dinners, that type of thing. So my grandfather thought it was time, with the problems that were going on, with the raids that were being done, to move the gambling They moved it one building down, and they called it the Snacks Bar. And in the front of this, you walk in, and the front was just a counter, and had a bunch of stools at it. So you could go in and get a cup of coffee and a donut. And then if you walk down the end, there was a door, you could go through the door, and that's where it was all back then, where they had moved all the gambling at that time.
Wow.
So that protected the license, you know, so that we wouldn't get the license suspended and lose the bowlers and the restaurant people and that type of thing. So. Any other questions? Well, thank you all very much for having me. I appreciate it. Look at the materials here.
I got one more little thing before we leave, and that's just to cover the meetings that we've got coming up, because now I've booked the next 6 months of the year with your permission on July. In July, we'll schedule a visit to Behringer Croft. Well, let's start with next month, okay? Next month, we're at the Fort Thomas Military, or Mess Hall, right? The Mess Hall. With Larry Tippin and his new book on the Pearl Bryan murder from 1896. The library has jumped all over this, and you're going to be seeing things in the library newsletter that comes out. They're trying to arrange for interviews with the author, with WVXU, and a couple of the other stations. So I think we have a chance of filling that mess hall with people. It may even draw more than you did. In June, we'll be at the Cold Spring City Building for our annual picnic and our Volunteer of the Year Award. And then July, we're going to go to Behringer Crawford, one day early. That'll be on a Wednesday. In August, I've just booked Mr. Brian Griffin, who is the grandson of the founder of Griffin Industries, who's going to come and talk to us about, not Darling there now, but all the time of Griffin Industries. September, we're doing our essay contest winners. October, I forget what we have in October. Wadsworth, oh, that's Miss Pam Baseball. I forgot you, I'm sorry. And then in November, we have our special Veterans Celebration for Veterans Day. And then in December will be our annual social, okay? So you'll get updated on all that as it comes along. So I welcome everybody, come up. Please be careful with this stuff. Some of this stuff has been around for a long, long time, and somebody put a lot of work into this. But please come out. A couple of things that Glenn didn't talk about. When his father was managing Beverly Hills, he was known as the youngest club manager in America. The guy was 19 years old. 19 and managing Beverly Hills Supper Club and doing a fine job of it. The other thing, I wish his sister would have been here because his sister just keeps egging him on. She said, tell the story about when you drove Grandpa's car home from school every day, and the police were always there, and they stopped him and said, Pete, you know he can't drive. He's 14 years old. 14, and he's driving his Cadillac, right? And he'd say, okay, fine. The next day, they'd stop him. Pete, you know he's not allowed to drive. Okay, he missed all those stories, so I wish Susie would have been here.
I was a lot better driver than he was.
So anyway, please come up and look at some of these. I think they'll bring back some memories for some of you. Other than that, have a safe trip home, and we'll see you next month.